Um, Coming to you from RVX Rob. We're going to do Linux on Windows really quickly. I've done this a lot of times, but I'm going to do it again because I need to do it because I just installed Windows. We're going to talk about why Linux on Windows, when did you choose Windows, why you would ever not just want to run Linux on your desktop. We're going to get into how to do that, the different ways to do it. The best and the most efficiently, and we're going to talk about some of the ways not to do that. So, for example, we won't be doing it in a container. We are going to be using VMware Player. We are not going to use um, VirtualBox, and we're going to talk about why VirtualBox is bad, and uh, all of those things. So that's what's coming in this video. The rest of the video, besides that, is going to be getting there, and this is live, so everybody's coming in here and chiming in and stuff and saying what they want to say, and that's fine. We like that. We like it when people you know share their opinions on things and stuff. Um, but it's, as I said, it's going to be somewhat messy, and it might not be your thing. So if it's not your thing, that's fine. Go someplace else. But if you want to go through this video, will actually be taking the place of some of the other videos on this topic with regard to SkillStack Beginner Boost. Let me just put a plugin for that. So SkillStack is skil.io. Let me switch back to a different screen. This screen is, I'm using a different camera today. So yeah, look at that. There's nothing there. Can you believe that? There's good old Twitch. So we got a few people coming in. And let's go to skillstack.io. So this is where you can go at least read my take on how to get going with the tech job, and specifically how to get Linux on your desktop and terminal and all that stuff. It's all going to go here, but this is a part of that. Okay, so again, the reason that I'm doing this video right now is because I need to do it, and I have a brand new, fresh Windows system, so you can go through all the problems with me, and it'll help me to remember all the things that I need to say to and forget actually along the way. So if you have questions and you want to ask, go for it. Um, and no, I don't have any videos about that. We're just going to focus on SkillStack. By the way, to those of you who are watching, we are multi-streaming to a lot of different places, and I want to stay on topic, unlike other streams. I might want to go off topic a little bit and talk about things, be loosey goosey. This one I want to stay on topic because the resulting video is going to be something people are going to follow along with. So please keep your chat if you can. If you have questions that are off topic, please save those for the Discord today. Which, by the way, I do want to plug the Discord. I did go in there, I reorganized it, cleaned it up a little bit. And we'll be using that for offline conversations a lot more now. All right, so this is the one-stop shopping for all the tech stuff that I do on the stream on SkillStack .io, and we can talk about that. And for those of you who don't know, just really quickly, I mean, I also do a bunch of other stuff. We're going to go explore Charlottetown on my bike. I'm mostly an outdoor streamer, outdoor IRL streamer, but I do still have some tech streaming that I do on occasion. And you can take a look at the calendar there. Okay, that's enough of that. Let's jump right in. Okay, so the first thing that we have to do is we need to get a terminal. Okay, but before we do that, before we even get a terminal, let's spend, and I swear I should put a timer on. let's actually do a search. Why use a virtual machine? And I'm just using Chrome on here. And I'm doing everything that you would do. Why would I put a VM? What's a virtual machine? A virtual machine is a machine that's not real. It's a virtual machine, and you run that, and so it's like running a Linux machine that's running inside of your Windows machine, and it very much meets that definition in terms of networking, in terms of security, and all of that stuff. And so many other streamers and YouTubers have talked about virtual machines, so you can get lots better, way organized content there. To justify your, and I encourage you to go do that research. And then one quick question, why a virtual machine instead of a container? So a container is using a technology that bundles up Linux. It's a Linux-only technology. A lot of people don't know this, but containers, I'm running containers on Windows. No, you're not. There's not a single person that's running Windows on containers, modern containers, LXC containers on anything but Linux. That's what LX is for. So containers is a way that was invented by the Linux community to take all of the core pieces of an application and memory and all that CPU and separate that from other applications running on the same Linux machine. And I continue to say Linux because it is only Linux. And and so that's what a container is. Okay, and in a nutshell. And that is the basis of all modern cloud computing because you can deploy a container. What do the containers get you? Containers are running on, let's go see if I can find one. Containers versus virtual machine. We'll probably find some nice pretty pictures of this. Let's go see what we can find. All right, so here's a good one, a good standard one. So we have if you have a virtual machine, so on hardware we'd have separate actual machines, right? With a virtual machine, at the very 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 lowest layer of the machine itself, you have a piece of software that's running almost at the lowest layer it possibly can, called a hypervisor, and that allows separate individual machines to access the same hardware to some degree. Sometimes they don't share very well, and I'm going to get more into this when I talk about why Windows, uh, because we found out that, for example, some virtual machine software, KVM comes to mind, cannot share the graphics processor, the GPU for gaming. So if you give over your GPU to one virtual machine, the other one can't use it. And then you still, in a virtual machine environment, you still have a host machine. So in the virtual machine environment, you have a host system which can be super teeny tiny, or it can be an actual system like what we're going to do today. And then you can have another system inside of it, the guest system, right? And it can host one or more guests. That's right. You can host like 3 Windows machines. You could host a Linux machine. You could host a BSD machine. Yeah, you could. You could actually host a BSD machine. But you could not host anything that won't run on the same hardware, because the thing that's being shared across all the machines is the hardware. When you're doing it in a containerized environment, the sharing is increased. So not only is there a single machine, but there is an operating system on that machine, not a hypervisor. Hypervisor is not really technically it is an operating system, but it's kind of below that. And there's 2 types. There's hardware hypervisors, and then there's software hypervisors. We're not going to get into the distinction. Just know that there's a layer there that allows you to run effectively different machines, and that's what we're going to do. And there's a lot of reasons for doing that, but we'll get into some of those as we do them. And then but then in the containerized world, you have containers are a little bit lighter weight. They're easier to spin up and pull down, and they're not a big a deal. They don't lock up your GPU and all that. And they can share even more, and they do a lot of sharing. But they are farther away from the actual operating system and the hardware. So if you wanted to, for example, use a USB stick, a USB drive, and plug it in and have it be visible to multiple containers, it's a much harder thing to do, if it's even possible. In fact, in that case, I don't even know if it is. But that is very possible in a virtual machine. But here's something interesting. So, and we'll see this when you put a USB stick into your computer, into your host hardware machine. My streaming rig. If I plug a USB stick in there, what happens? Right? Who gets to use it? Well, in my case, I have the host system, and then I have the virtual machines. And VMware, which is the software we're going to use, and this is one of the reasons we're going to use it, is because it's so intelligent about handling these kind of things. It's also proprietary, but you can choose. You can say, I want that USB to be used by the host system, and then you can use it that way. But when you plug it in, it'll say, would you like this to be available? And it'll prompt you, and it'll say, hey, just letting you know, if you ever want to use that USB stick, your secure key or whatever, on any of your virtual machines, just go into that virtual machine and activate it and click on the little icon, and then it will disconnect it from the host, and it will connect it to the guest, which is the one that you want to use. So that is a small but important distinction. If you want to share USB devices or other things at that kind of layer between the host system and the other machines, a virtual machine is the way to go, unless you're using WSL2, which is another reason not to use it, which WSL2 does not allow you to mount USB sticks at all. It's another WSL2 is a horrible choice. You should never use it. I've done separate videos on that. I'm not going to. I'll only briefly get into that later when we compare the different virtual machine stuff, which we're not doing it right now. We're talking about virtualization and containerization, and containerization comes with its own problems, right? Like it's not really well. It's mostly for doing things for like running services and microservices and stuff like that. It's not designed to really handle particularly distinct graphical applications or servers that are going to be accessing the system in different ways. Now, it just so happens that for my purposes of Linux, you have to ask yourself, well, what kind of Linux do I want, right? And so my answer is I want an Ubuntu Linux server because I want to basically save myself the money from paying for a server in the cloud. And I'm going to give myself my own server in my Windows machine that I can log into and change around, just like I was hosting it on Amazon or DigitalOcean or anything else. That's my goal. Okay. Another person's goal might be they want to run Kali Linux in a safe environment and they want the full graphical experience and everything. Same exact idea, right? But that one would run graphically in a virtual machine. That example with Kali Linux is a good example of something you cannot do in containers. Containers are designed to just encapsulate little. They're basically applications on steroids, right? They're not designed. Containers are really not designed to be logically considered machines, even though people bend the rules all the time there. So don't go down that road. We have in the past, by the way, and we've been burned in different ways for doing that. So the virtual machines again can run on anything. We're going to pursue, the virtual machine approach. So I'm going to pause to take a couple of questions from the chat, see if there's anything related to the difference between virtual machines and containers, and why I'm going this route. I didn't want to spend a lot of time in here because I got stuff to do, and I want to do it in addition to talking about. How do I install Linux VM on Windows? The boost is tomorrow. Yep, thank you. What else we got? This one thing is aligned with the boost, or is the boost switching from VMware? The boost is the boost. Okay, so that's a good question. Let me go back to the chat a little bit further. So is this the booster 2023? The boost is still going on, and we had a day that we went down on Saturday because I switched over from Linux. I spent the day changing over my operating system. Boosts are on Saturdays, and they are on the schedule. And we're going to 90 minutes, and the time changed. So that's the answer to that. And this particular video that I'm doing is how to get Linux on Windows. That's what we're talking about. Is this in line with the boost? So this content I'm doing right now is stuff that I've covered in the boost every year. It's just I'm revising it, and I'm taking the opportunity to make a video about it because I have to do it. So it's out of line with the boost, even though it is boost content and it will be put into the playlist. I'll inject it back into the playlist where it goes. Does that make sense? And just for your information, for 2024, in the beginner boost, we are going to essentially require the purchase of a machine so that you can install Linux on a machine. And you can pay as little as $100 for a machine and install Linux on hardware. And the reason for that is so that we can actually use a virtualization on that, and that you'll be ready for Home Lab init if you choose to do that later. So instead of installing a server inside of Windows like I'm doing now, in the boost in 2024, you'll be installing a actual hardware server that you will then plug into your network at home somehow. And we will also cover, I've decided, we will also cover how to do the virtual machine like we're doing now. So there'll be two ways to run Linux in 2024. One, buy a very cheap, but if you want, you can get a bigger one. Buy a server and install Linux on there. If you buy a bigger server, you can actually install a hypervisor, and then you can have basically your own cloud, that's a part of something called Home Lab init, which is a different thing that's separate from the boost. When the boost is not going on, we do Home Lab init, and then the other thing is to install a virtual machine uh, and to install Linux into a virtual machine. And these are core skills. These are things that everybody should know how to do. So let's get on with that. Let me finish reading the comments there. Oh, thank you for the subs there, everybody. Appreciate that. Subs have been dropping off because I haven't been doing tech content as much. I appreciate that. This is not a boost. No, this is not. Virtualization hypervisors, hypervisor running on Ubuntu. Well, we are going to talk about which one right now. Pretty much we're not covering. Okay. All righty. So, hey, Dimitri. All right. So we are doing tech content today. Let's talk about hypervisors. So we had to make, the first decision we had to make was, how do I get Linux on? Well, actually, no. The first decision is, why not run Linux on my desktop? So let's talk about that decision first, okay? And I actually wrote about this. Why? I'm going to do a search. Why not run Linux on my desktop? We're going to do, I always do internet searches because I like, when does not simply install Linux? This is perfect. That's why. Okay, so this is kind of funny that these pictures would come up. So let's actually talk about this for a second, okay? Because this is a problematic topic, but I'm going to try to spend a little bit of time on it, and I might get ranty. I apologize. Because Linux blew up. Linux blew up, people. It blew up on me, and I was going to make a video just about that. I'm not. I'm just going to tell you here. Okay, I mean, when people think of blue screening and operating systems blowing up, the first operating system to come to mind is not Linux, right? It's usually Windows. They usually make fun of Windows. And my camera is not on stream. What happened to my camera? Did my camera decide to die? Well, okay, let me just try this. Right, it keeps doing this. Yeah, my camera's been having issues lately. It's because I switched over to the DJI Auction Osmo 5. Where did you go, oh camera of mine? See, I'm still there, I promise. All right, I told you this was messy. I do not know why it does not like it. I'm going to add it one more time. Video capture device, add existing, Osmo Action 4. Hey, look, it's a big me. Okay, we'll put this down here. I don't know why the colors are the contrast is kind of bad, but we're gonna put this down here. How about that? Is that good? How's that? We're live editing. Live editing. This is welcome to my channel. That's how we are. Hey, how you doing? Okay, so let's talk about this for a second. All right. So why Linux, and why Linux in a thing? All right, so I've said this so many times, so I'm gonna really try to stay focused. What time is it? Somebody remind me what time it is. It's 1:46. I'm gonna give myself 5 minutes for this. Okay. Linux, at its core, is best as a server. I'm gonna get tomatoes. People are gonna throw stuff at me. The original design for Linux was to meet a need, and that need was not desktop users. It's just not. Now, the fact that you can run Linux on the desktop and you can play games and all the things, this is amazing. It's amazing, especially the people over there, at Steam. They're doing Steam Deck, Valve. They're amazing people. The people who have got Linux to run to games and all this Windows software, which is written for Windows only, and gotten it to work on Linux, I have been following that movement since Wine in 1990s. And they have done amazing, amazing things, and they continue to make progress. But they will always be behind. Why? Because the software that's being developed for Windows is not being considered for Linux. And every single time they do that, they are running software. There has to be an emulation layer at some point. Can you detect it? Is it laggy? Does it run as fast? It probably runs as fast for you to play most of the games that you care about. And some of these devices, some of the stuff with Lutris and everything that they're doing, it's absolutely amazing. It's amazing. I do not want to take away from what they are doing, but it is not good enough. And let me tell you why. So, like Witcher 3 on Linux was fine, right? It doesn't have a really high demand for performance or anything. So I was able to click a box on my desktop, run with Lutris or whatever, and it worked, right? I 2 weeks, 3 weeks ago, I said, hey, I missed my Overwatch on Linux, so I installed Overwatch using Bottles, which is one of many ways to get Windows to run on Linux. And it took me a long time. I finally got it. It was really laggy and it was unplayable. It was unplayable, and then it kept blue screening. I mean, it kept freezing my computer, and like you know how when your computer really freezes and it keeps playing the same sound thing over and over and over again, and the only thing to do is to hard hold the power button. It did that to me more than 5 times. And then there was a known bug with Overwatch and everything. And this is a game that's supposed to work, right? This is a game that was like supported officially by Wine and Bottles and Lutris and everybody else. Everybody's saying, and then I saying, oh, well, you have to use this version and this version. And I used all the versions, and I spent hours and hours and hours getting it to do it, but it still crashed. And even when it did work, there was a big Reddit about, why do I always have to alt tab just to get my mouse to work? Oh, that's just a known bug. We just have to do that. But just be grateful that you have Overwatch on Linux. And I'm like, I could have just installed Windows and then put, the software that was written for Windows on there. And so that whole thing about Linux always playing catch up when it comes to games in 3D is always going to be a thing. And it started with OpenGL. So you have DirectX, which is the technology Windows more or less invented for 3D. You can give Microsoft, props for that. They've done a lot of bad things, but they've also done that. They brought us gaming. They brought us 3D. They brought seriously, with Microsoft, they may have stolen it from a bunch of people, but they ultimately brought us the world of gaming and 3D. And the world of gaming and 3D caters primarily to Windows people. And that's not going to change. That is not going to change. And you can fight all you want with a Linux person about this. It doesn't matter. They're going to, they have so much cognitive dissonance, they're not even going to admit it. The truth is that as good as it's gotten, it's never going to be good enough, because it's always going to be playing catch up. It's always going to be, and by the way, this is the reason not to use WSL2, which we're going to get to. Why not use the best tool for the job? The best tool for gaming is Windows, period. It just is. The best tool for gaming is Windows. And you'll say, yeah, but it's just as good. But this X and Y game is just as good. It doesn't matter. 99.9% of games run on Windows. And also, some of them run on Mac, and some of them run on Linux also. But pretty much every game that's ever been made, the first thing the designer said is, how do we write this for Linux, not for anything else? And that goes for bigger applications too, like SolidWorks. SolidWorks is one of the premier, whether or not people still think it's the best in terms of 3D modeling and CAD kind of things, whether or not it's still the best, it is still considered, a premier thing, and it definitely influenced all the other ones, and it only runs on Windows. There's no option to run it someplace else. So the answer, why should I run Linux and Windows, comes down to one question. What do you want to do? And if it's on your main primary system and you want to be able to stream and stream the gaming, and you want to run OBS that works, and Streamlabs, and you want to run all the plugins that will not work on anything but Windows, and you want to occasionally do 3D things that work on Windows, and you want to play games that are Windows only. So if you don't remember, there's probably some people in the chat right now that I'm going to offend, but I spent 18 hours trying to get Zwift to run when I did the first transition over a month ago. Guess how many times I've played Zwift since that day? Once. And I bought an entire capture card just so that I could play my favorite game of all, Zwift. Because Zwift is not supported on Windows. On Linux, period. It's just not. There's a lot of people that have tried it and hacked it, and none of them work. And I eventually got it to work in VMware Player, but it was laggy and it crashed. And we're talking about a game that's got a very important low lag demand, because it's racing. You're literally racing. Milliseconds matter. And it didn't have the proper device drivers for my heart rate monitor and all the other stuff. I had to get it all together. It was a pain in the ass, and it took me 18 hours, and even then I couldn't get it done. And half the people were telling me that I needed to buy another GPU if I wanted to do it on Linux, because KVM, which was the virtualization machine the virtualization that I was using, was not going to work. And so I said, no, I'm not doing that. I just, what else I could do? I could just put Windows back on there. And so last week, this is actually why we didn't have a boost last week. Last week, I was sick and tired of it. I had a day where I wanted to just get on Zwift and ride, and I couldn't do it. because I went to do it and I had to set up my capture card and I had to turn my Mac on and I had to plug my Mac into my other computer and I had to capture the screen so that I could stream the whole thing and I had to manage it all. When if I had had Windows, I could have just said start, play, and ride. And when it comes to exercise and those kind of activities, you want the least amount of friction. I've talked about this a lot when I do my bike rides. You want the least amount of friction, right? Because if it takes you even an extra 2 minutes to set it up, it's enough of a bother that you're just not going to do it. And maybe you have more willpower than me and you're like really dedicated, and that's fine. But most people aren't. Most people just want it to work. And when something is designed to work on Windows, it makes sense to use Windows for that thing. And I don't have to make that point any further there. I'm kind of done with that. But so then why not just have another machine for Linux, right? Well, here's one example. I'm streaming, right? And so right now I can actually connect to my server over here, right? I have a server over here, and I can set up my machine here that I'm streaming from to connect to that machine, and we would be fine at that point. And that's exactly how we're going to do the boost next year. You're going to set up your own server, and then you're going to put a SSH server on there, and you're going to connect into that server, and we're going to have fun. But why not sometimes allow for that exact same scenario on the same machine, which is what we're going to do here today. We're going to put a virtual machine on this inside of Windows, so you don't have to have that hardware, and we're going to connect to it just the same way, and we're going to install all of that software. Okay, so one of the reasons to do this is because of safety. Another one's because you want to test something out. You want to do something really hairy and dangerous, but you don't want to do that to a server itself because it might mess it up. Another one is, you might want to run Kali Linux, right? And you don't want that to be, that would be a case where you might even want to run a virtual machine inside of Linux, So there's lots of reasons, but the main one for me is that I want to be able to quickly and easily show stuff related to Linux server and Linux terminal that we can all work on together without necessarily having everybody have a machine installed from scratch. And I've gone through these steps already. It's already in the beginner boost, but I'm doing it again right now because I have to do it. And that includes some of the other things that I did not do in the beginner boost, like install a terminal application. So I'm taking a pause here to take a breath and to look at the chat, see what else we got here on the chat. Okay. Rob's Legend, I agree. We'll throw oranges out of our pockets. He gave up gaming on Linux. They brought us LSPs. Yes. Everyone uses Rust to implement game engines, and Rust is cross-platform. Therefore, it's the future of Linux. Maluba, you troll. And by the way, if you want to know where my teeth went, that's a different video. I'm going to get new teeth here pretty soon. An emulator for the Sony PlayStation. You're missing all the bonus points of Turbotopia. I know, Dimitri. I know this. Stop stressing me out. I know. It's like, yeah, I know. Zwift. I know. I have no front teeth. That's why I can't pronounce it right. The cycling simulator is a simulator. My brain blanked and I forgot about Zwift. Yeah, it takes me 10 minutes to get into a game. By then, I'm out of the mood to play the game. I don't want to play anymore. I stopped dual booting Windows and Linux and run Windows under Looking Glass now. Okay, that makes sense. KVM, yeah. Alba can be streamed as a virtual video device. Yeah, but it will never be as fast. And have a beginner set that up. GPU pass-through, so I can do the same. That is really cool if you could figure out how to do that, but most people have no idea. Dual boot now, Debian 12 on Windows, and Windows is going to go boom. Yeah, and a lot of people are talking about dual booting. Let's talk about that really quick. Why not install both? The short answer is because one of them will kill the other one eventually. And I'm speaking from personal experience. I have helped hundreds and hundreds, maybe thousands of people at this point since 2013 to learn these things. And I cannot tell you how many times that a Windows upgrade or a Linux upgrade has destroyed the other thing that was on the machine. So dual booting means basically taking your hard drive or taking two separate hard drives and in your computer and having one be Windows and one be Linux. And then when the machine boots up, you tell it which one you want to run. and then you have both, right? And I did that. I did that in my computer lab for a long time because we would have birthday parties and I'd have to boot into Linux to play Overwatch because boot Windows because nobody wants to play Overwatch or even Minecraft on Linux, um, and so we would boot. I would have to reboot all the machines in the lab, but I could have those machines be Windows now, and I knew what I was doing and I've been doing it for years, but I always recommend against dual booting for most people because inevitably a virtual machine will get them what they want. They usually just want one of those systems mostly. And I don't know how many times I've talked with somebody or I myself have set up a dual boot system and ended up never ever using the other system or using it very, very, very little. And I would have easily been better served by, putting that system inside of the other one as a virtual machine or actually buying a separate computer. They're so cheap, especially Linux machines, right? Linux, you can get. I'm telling you, you can get a Linux machine for $100, and that's you might think it's cheap, but it is. I'm talking about a Raspberry Pi. I'm talking about a legitimate Optiplex Nano, small form factor computer that you can run in the corner that it's got all disk speed, SSD, and everything, and you can run that as your server, and then use that as a server for Linux. You can put Minecraft server on there and run a Minecraft server on Linux, which is fantastic. That's what we used to do with SkillStack. And then you can connect into it, and you can have Windows machines that are on the desktops that are booting up that can run their Optifine plugins and all the high end stuff that would just make a virtual machine or even Linux running Minecraft with those plugins just cry because it just wouldn't work very well. So the point is, use the right tool for the job. I do not recommend dual booting, but if you know what you're doing and you're not afraid to have either of those systems go belly up anytime, and the worst one of all, I want to say it was in 2016, 2017, something like that. There was a Windows update that actually saw that other partitions were on the machine, and it took over ownership of them, and it just completely annihilated people's Linux on those machines. And I never ever want to trust Windows with, and some people say, well, it's because your bootloader, blah blah blah. I don't trust it. I don't trust having that. And I know that some of the safety stuff and some of the even the UEFI stuff, which was a bad thing at first, have caused more separation, but it's still kind of a thing. Um, so so anyway, Windows will reorder UEFI entries, but it won't remove them. Yeah, I was just gonna say, um, Manjaro is awesome, but it's also a disaster. Manjaro is the distro that bricked every machine in my computer lab by clicking on upgrade, and I will never use it for that. I don't ever want to use it again. I'm not the only one who hates it for that reason. And you can use it if you want. I mean, everybody uses Manjaro until it does them wrong, and then they're like, "Oh, everybody told me not to do it." Um, yeah, XFC minimalist Windows is better than Windows for web dev. But we're not talking about web dev, okay? We're talking about things that you need Windows for, and that includes streaming. And I wrote a whole blog on this, but we're done. Let's go through now and do the installation. Um, yeah. And we're not going to argue about Linux distros. I'm just going to tell you why I'm picking the one I did, and we can have a separate conversation about that. You guys are welcome to argue about that in the chat, though, since the chat is not on the screen. Um, so one just simply does not install Linux. My phone is talking at me. So, but we are going to do that. That's exactly what we're going to do. So the first thing, we made several choices. Number one, we want our main system to be Windows because we only have one computer. All right, let's pretend we only have one computer and it's a big rig that has been designed for gaming, and it games really well, by the way. And I was actually playing Overwatch the other day. I was playing Zwip the other day. And I was like, oh my God, this is so wonderful. Okay, so we've chosen that we want Windows as our main system because we're gamers. Okay, and we're also streamers. And most of the streaming software that matters does not run on Linux. I don't care what anybody says. The main plugins, I don't want to get into it. But if you want to be a streamer, you're not gonna, ever want to really do that. All right, so and they're geeking out on all the different other things, but so let's keep it high level. You're running Windows because you're a gamer or because you wanted to run 3D software, maybe through SolidWorks, or maybe you're an engineer, right? Or your company doesn't let you run Linux on the desktop, which is also another reason. So that's decision number one. So now, how do we get to Linux? Well, we could borrow somebody's cloud server and log into that and use that, but we don't want to depend on somebody else's cloud, and we don't have the money to buy our own cloud. So we want an alternative that's free. And so then we say, okay, well, how can I run Linux on my own machine on Windows? And the first thing you're going to Google is going to be WSL. And how can I run Linux on Windows? The first thing that's going to pop up is going to be WSL. Pretty much every single time, it's going to be WSL. Now, what is WSL? It's Windows Subsystem for Linux. It is a virtual machine. That's why I discuss virtual machines first. Okay, it's also horrible. It's absolutely abysmally bad. Over the last 2.5 years, my stream community has seen WSL2 blow up on me and taken bets about how long it was going to take to blow up on me. Even when I called it the future of Linux one year. And you can use it, and that's fine. But I strongly suggest against it for all the same reasons that I suggest against. It's the same argument. WSL2 is Microsoft's own homegrown kernel just designed for them. And they constantly have to tweak it and adapt it. And they have a bridge that allows it to sort of talk to the file system, but not really. So, so the Linux community is coming out with things all the time. And the Windows community is always behind because they always have to add. So they have the same problem. That whole DirectX OpenGL thing? DirectX comes out first. It's really awesome, right? And OpenGL's like, damn, we got to add that stuff, right? It's kind of like Spigot and Minecraft server if you're running Minecraft servers, right? You have to wait like 6 months for the team to get all the new cool vanilla Minecraft stuff into the Spigot, one. So in this case, you want Linux. You don't want some Microsoft-y bastardized version of Linux. You just don't. You don't. I don't care how good it gets. You don't want that because it's always going to be behind. It's always going to be one iteration behind. All the thing, it's going to be playing catch up. And it doesn't matter how good they are, they're always going to be behind. And plus it does really weird things with permissions that will make you very sad. And some of them are downright insecure when it comes to SSH unless you really separate out your files. And I don't want to get into it, but so the answer is don't use WSL2. Don't do it. You don't need it. You don't need it. It's not even a real distro. Okay, let me give you an example. Another reason not to. WSL2 is a virtual machine without being a real virtual machine, which means you can't mount a USB stick into it. How many times are you going to want to use your secure key, right? How many times are you going to want to transfer files from your GoPro or something like that? How are you going to do it? You can't do it on WSL2. You can't. It's just not possible. So, don't use WSL2. If you use it despite my warning, good luck. Use a professional grade virtualization software. And okay, so the next one that might pop up is something called, everybody says VirtualBox because it's free, right? VirtualBox, it does not work everywhere. And VirtualBox has blown up. Oracle has said that it wasn't going to support VirtualBox, and then they decided they were going to anyway. VirtualBox at one point came out and said that they weren't going to do ARM, and then I don't know why, but they made an official statement saying they weren't going to do ARM, which meant no Mac or anything, and then they eventually came forward and did it. The reason that you don't want to use VirtualBox is it's crap. It's just crap. It is some of the worst software I have ever used. It is counterintuitive. Its UI is bad. It's everything that you would expect from free software that is trying to get you. Plus, it's owned by Oracle, who's constantly trying. They're worse than Microsoft at trying to lock you in, and it has bugs all the time. I mean, I updated it to run my own virtual machine, and then that I was doing the boost with 1 year, and then I couldn't even boot my machine anymore. My virtual machine, it just stopped being bootable. And then I went to their support site, and the support site said, "Oh yeah, you're not supposed to officially upgrade if you have this and this chip." And I said, "Well, why did you prompt me to upgrade then?" She goes, no, you need to actually go in there and downgrade completely in order to run your virtual machines again. So I tried that, and then it wouldn't even boot my virtual machines because they were all messed up at that point. So it completely corrupted it and stopped me from being able to run my virtual machines. And if there's one thing you want in virtualization software, it's sustainability and reliability. And that is why I'm going to recommend there's the number one virtualization technology on the planet is KVM. And it is a Linux technology and it only runs on Linux. So that would be my first recommendation, right? And that is why we're going to install Linux on hardware in the boost next year. So you can use KVM for free, just like Amazon and Azure and all of the other huge cloud providers do. You can use the same exact virtualization technology and software that those cloud providers do in your computer lab at home. That is the number one virtualization. The number two virtualization method, and you can kind of put these in a separate camp. KVM is largely for cloud virtualization and, like little servers and stuff. But when it comes to desktop workstation virtualization, and I am not being paid by them, I literally pay them. There is nothing on the planet that is better than virtual VMware. They actually invented more or less the market for workstation software. So we have to get that. VMware. We're going to get VMware. And here is VMware. And I'm going to get crap about this because VMware is something you have to buy. I actually don't necessarily recommend you buy a copy, especially if you're going to install Linux on hardware. But so you can come over here and you can get it. What we're going to get started, we're going to download the free player. So they have a thing called Workstation and they have a thing called Player. We're going to go download Player. And this has been covered by so many people. If you want a more efficient way of going about doing it, go there. Products, there we go. Products. Let's see here. Where are you? I could just do this. How about VMware Player? And Player has, there it is, Workstation Player. Download for free. You can buy a license for Player if you want to. Please tell me it didn't log me in. Okay, good. I don't want to give up my IDs here. Go to downloads. So we're going to go to downloads. Yeah, download group 1704. Product binaries, drivers and tools, workstations for Linux 64 for Windows. Download now. And we'll get that downloaded. You install VMware on Linux? Well, yeah. I mean, they probably don't care about the Linux market anymore because you got KVM over there. Yeah, running VMware Player on Linux is kind of. I'll tell you what, though, it does GPU sharing. That got Zwift to work. Could not run Zwift under KVM. Period. Was not possible because I had to allocate a full GPU. There was no GPU pass through. So, yeah. And there's people in the chat are talking about Hyper-V and type 1 versus type 2. Do you want to install? Yes. All right, it's not showing you. It's on my other main screen, but it just put that stuff. Programming language. It depends on what you're programming, but I'm Bash and Go these days. And those are the workhorse languages of the modern era. Of course, the web, yeah, JavaScript, TypeScript, and stuff. All right, so user agreement, accept the terms of the license, yes. Enhanced keyboard, try reboot required for this feature. I don't actually need that. Add VMware Workstation console to pass next. I might actually have to reboot and do this video in 2 parts, but we'll see. Check for product updates to start up. Yeah, sure, whatever. Join the VMware. No, next. Create shortcuts for VMware. Desktop startup menus. That's fine. I'll click install to begin. Yeah, I forgot this is Windows, so we might have to reboot. Yeah. I don't know how we'd have to do that with the stream. We'd have to do like a part 1 and a part 2 or something. Enhanced keyword, yeah. I couldn't remember that, but so what is wrong? Well, this is installing. Let's talk about it. So, what's wrong with Player, right? There are some problems. Well, the first problem with Player is because it's free, you can only run one virtual machine at a time. That means some of the best reasons to use a virtualization on your desktop, like practicing your networking skills, can't be done because you can't run three different machines, desktop machines ish kind of thing. You can only do the one. But if you're going to do that kind of thing, KVM on Linux is always better, right? You could allocate multiple VMs on a server. So if you are serious about networking and that kind of thing and running multiple VMs at the same time, most likely you're going to want to do that on a Linux machine, and you're going to want to use KVM for that, and then run a bunch of those. And you can even get fancy and use Firecracker and spin them all up automatically or whatever. So that's where that's going. The Windows sucks. Okay, tell me how I'm supposed. Somebody just in YouTube just said Windows sucks. I think that's hilarious. Okay, tell me how to play Zwift on Linux then. You must not be a Zwift person. You also must not be an engineer. Windows sucks. Yeah, have fun. Run along. Go do something. We're going to actually be productive. So here we go. Okay, so we have, let's go look down here and see what I have on my, so I'm finding my icons on my main screen, and we're going to click on VMware Workstation Player in the recently added. And then, of course, I'm going to add that. I'm going to right-click on it, and I'm going to say Pin to Taskbar. And then we get this right here. You can do because of Linux because of that. Yep, we talked about that. We talked about VirtualBox and why it's absolute trash, and I don't want to repeat myself. It's full of bugs. It's ruined my VMs multiple times, and they said they would never support ARM, and then they relented and tried to do it anyway, and they always are horrible. If you want to play that game, if you want to do that, fine. I don't. Use VMware Workstation 17 for free on non-commercial use. Yep. License key. Nope. Continue. We hope you're using it. Finish. Yeah, and the VMware Player license is not as much money as the other one. The biggest reason to get VMware Player is also the biggest reason that people hate on it. It's not free software. There's actually a company that supports it, that you pay. And guess what? I'm going to say something that's going to really anger a bunch of people. When you pay for it, you get what you pay for. Yeah. And these days, believe it or not, there are a lot of people paying for Linux. That's why it's so good. So, the 1990s Rob would be would just abhor what I am saying. With 2023 Rob, 55-year-old Rob has said, who's had his teeth knocked out of his head, free software sucks 90% of the time. I'm just going to tell you, I have been one of the biggest proponents of Linux and free software since the 1990s, when before most of you who are going to yell at me have been born. I have watched this industry grow. I installed Mach Linux on PowerPC Mac in 1995. And I ran Linux on a P2 at one point. I ran my own servers. I ran TuxZone. I have been one of the biggest. I've done demonstrations on how awesome free software is. And I'm telling you, after more than 3 decades of observing the free software industry, free software sucks. And I'm going to say that by the next thing to fall down with that is, okay, well, what else is there? There is software that is supplemented or that is not free. Linux technically is being supported by a bunch of people that are being paid. And technically, to me, that's not free software anymore. There are a lot of people. There's thousands and thousands of people that are getting a regular high-paying salary to keep Linux working and running. And that money is being given into it. So if you want to call that free software, fine, I don't. That's not free. That's money. That's software that you might be getting for free that's open, but that you have to pay for. You get what you pay for. And the Linux that we're getting today is a Linux that's had millions of dollars invested into it, right? And VirtualBox is supposedly free, but it's mostly a bunch of crappy Oracle engineers trying to keep it running and patch all of its holes and everything. And it sucks. It's horrible. It's absolutely horrible. And anybody who's actually used VMware for any amount of time and used VMware Player or VirtualBox Player, VirtualBox for any amount of time will tell you the same thing. They'll just have that. It's just like such a pain. Most of the people that don't like hearing these things are people that are still trying to get away with doing things for free. And this is free. Everything that we've done so far is still free. All right. So, commercial use only, non-commercial use only. So we are going to run a VMware player, okay, and create a new virtual machine. So, and we're going to install, yeah. So right. So, um, yeah, that's another thing people confuse all the time is free as in speech and not free as in free as like you're free to be able to change stuff. Yeah. You're happy when Microsoft spies on you? Yeah. I used to be that guy. Yeah. For 2 full years, I had a flip phone because I didn't want people to spy on me. Now I actually don't care because if you think you're free from being spied on, go. I wish you could talk to some of my intelligence friends. Nobody is free from being spied on, dude. No. Telemetry, I don't really care. But if you don't want those things, that's fine. Yeah. It's the same old tired arguments from the free and open source community about security and being spied on, and we're going to defeat them by doing this. And you know what? You can't be a modern citizen and not be spied on. I hate to tell you that, but it's true. It's true. You're talking about somebody who has some contact with that industry, and I'm telling you, you cannot be. One of the reasons that I've like given up is because it's impossible. It is impossible to live a modern life in America, at least, and not be spied on. You're going to try to operate. You're going to try to not have a smartphone. Are you going to try to do that? If you're going to try to do that, you're going to be the 0.001% of people who actually care enough to attempt to not be spied on. Then you're still going to be videoed by me while I'm doing live streams or any number of security cameras all over the place. I don't want to get into this. It's going to end horribly. There is no such thing as privacy. And the TED Talk that I used to trot out to show everybody that we would not even know what the word privacy means anymore is real. It's already happened. And that is our new reality. And there's no going back from that. There's no going back from that. So the thing to get used to is not having privacy. I'm sorry. Not to the level that you're thinking of anyway. So it's just not. I'm sorry that sounds defeatist, but it is. Well, at least you know who's spying on you, right? It's not supposed to be absolutely right. Yeah, everybody. Look, I don't like that this is true, but this is the world we live in. This is the sacrifice the entire world has made for the sake of convenience. For the sake of convenience and sharing and the freedom, frankly, that comes from individual content creators all over the world, that freedom, those amazing things have already taken their toll. And as humanity progresses, it's very unlikely that we're ever going to go back to a time where you ever have privacy to the level that you may have experienced in the 50s or the 60s. That's just not happening. I mean, I don't want to talk about it. Okay. We're going to go get a disk. What kind of machine are we going to install? We're going to install Ubuntu server. And so why Ubuntu server? Let's talk about that for a second. Okay. The reason that we're installing Ubuntu server is because most servers, most containers, have Ubuntu running in them. Most, and most servers are Ubuntu. Ubuntu is just a lot easier to use as an operating system. Several of the people on my team all agree. When it comes to enterprise Linux, I mean, let's just be real. There's either Red Hat or there's Ubuntu. And unless you're in the Amazon ecosystem, in which case you got Amazon, right? And if you're using Amazon, if you're in the Amazon cloud, you should probably use Amazon Linux. The end. Right, but we're not talking about any of that. We're talking about putting it on your own machine. The only time you would ever want to use Arch or Kali or any of these other distros is if you have a very specific need for that thing. There is no production Arch on the planet. The only time I've ever heard of Arch being used in enterprise scale is at Valve, which is what Steam Deck uses, which is cool. I mean, it's really awesome. Arch is a great distro for those who really want to get their really unnecessarily hands dirty in Linux. I don't. I want to use a Linux that's going to be like what I would get in the cloud if I spun up a machine in DigitalOcean, and it would either be Red Hat or Ubuntu. Plus, I generally work with containers all the time, and those are also Ubuntu. So the reason I use Ubuntu is Ubuntu Server, because Ubuntu Server um, is one of the easier ones to work with for everybody. And so accept all and visit site. I guess so. Now it's unfortunate, but see how it says install Ubuntu VMs. You actually have to buy their multipass, which is really sad because if we didn't have to buy this, you can probably find it someplace else. Does anybody else know where there might be a good one? We're gonna go through the installation, but what I was gonna show you is you can go get that. You can actually download a virtual machine image and run it. And if so, for example, if you wanted to run Kali Linux, which by the way is, yeah, I don't have they switched over yet. If you want to run Kali Linux, you could download that and just run the image, right? But Ubuntu wants to make money on that, so they're trying to get us to pay. We're not. So we're going to have to do a manual installation, which is annoying, and I've done this before many times, but I'm going to do it really quick. We're going to download the server 20, the latest one, 20. Now, there might be a chance you'd want an older one. And this is going to take a while to download. It's not too long. It's going to take longer to install. And what these are is they're usually called network installs. So it runs through an interactive thing. It's a tiny little program that runs the installer. And that it's the same exact thing as if you had an install USB stick. You know what those are, right? You'd have a USB stick and you'd stick it in your computer and then you would install it, right? And that's what we're going to do in the Boost in 2024. I'm going to show you how to make one of those and to do that installation. Same for installing Windows, by the way. That's how I got Windows on here. Is I downloaded actually you know what I noticed, by the way, this is downloading. I'll just, for the technical people out there, Balena Etcher, Rufus, and all the other ones, they now do not allow you to take the download of the Windows installation media and put it directly on a USB stick. They block it and say that you need to use a special installer for that. And you can either use Microsoft's own special installer if you have a Windows machine, or you can go through these other hoops for that. It was very interesting. That's the first time that I've got confirmation that just DDing the Windows image onto a USB stick will not work, and that's why. And they've now, it's such a problem, they've now actually put warnings into the Balena Etcher. It will see that it's a Windows image and give you the warning and won't let you go further. And then it'll give you the recommendations, which all kind of suck, really. And then the Rufus does the same thing too. So that was actually very in heart, that made me happy because I was having problems just DDing the Windows image onto a USB stick and having it work. And that's why it wouldn't work apparently. So, and that was way before there were any warnings about it. So the best way to put Windows on a machine is to download the Windows image and then to run their installer, and then you stick a USB stick in your computer and you point the Windows installer at it, and it gives you a nice happy USB, and then you boot from that and you install Windows that way. That is the same way to install any operating system, and there's variations on that, but that is how you install any operating system onto hardware. And so that is what we would do if we wanted to put Linux on hardware right now. But instead of doing that, and that's why it's called an ISO, the term ISO is from the old term for a CD-ROM image, and that's essentially what this is. We're making our little USB stick into effectively a CD-ROM that has a USB connection to our computer. So that says it's all ready to go. It's been downloaded. And now we can go back and we're going to, instead of creating a USB stick and everything, we're going to go back to our VMware player. And we're going to say where we're going to point to the ISO, which is in my downloads, downloads here. And we're going to point it at that. And we won't need it after that, so we can keep it in downloads. It doesn't matter. And we click on next, Ubuntu 64-bit. Next, maximum size for hard drive. Now, you cannot, which was, this is one I don't think you can increase. I can't remember. I remember that I needed to have something like 80, but I'm going to go ahead and put because I'm going to use this thing a lot. I'm going to be downloading images over here and all kinds of things. And I have quite a bit of hard drive space on this computer. So I'm going to put 300 gigabytes. How about 200? No, 300. I mean, you want to see how much, because that's going to become, it's not going to use all of that space at once, um, but that's the maximum it can use, and I don't believe you can change it after the fact. Maybe you can. Um, Store it as a single file, absolutely. Okay, so then we have Windows Workstation 17, Ubuntu 64, hard disk, memory. So memory can be turned up and down all the time, right? And I'm going to go ahead and give it 4 gig of RAM. We have it as a NATed network adapter. I don't want that. Remember I said about having a computer inside of another computer? Well, we don't want that. We want it to be a computer. It is inside of the other computer, but I want it to pretend like it's a computer next to the computer so that it's on the same network. And that's what NAT is. In a nutshell, NAT is putting a computer inside of the other computer and having that computer be kind of like a network, as if it was at your home network, right? That computer has kind of its own private home network, and inside of it is living this virtual machine, right? And it makes it very nice and safe and protected from everybody else, which is why a lot of people do this, because if they're hacking or something, they want to protect their IP addresses and all kinds of things and do stuff like that. But in my case, I want this to be just like a laptop that I'm plugging into my network, or that I'm joining the Wi-Fi, and so for that, and I also want to be able to access it from my laptop. So, like, let's say I'm working from the bed or from my toilet or from the patio, I want to be able to connect to my cloud server, my little server here, and I want it to be just like I was logging into any other computer in my network. And to do that, I have to turn NAT off. So we're going to turn NAT. We're going to put NAT into host only private network. Nope. LAN segment. Nope, bridged. Bridged is what we want. Okay, so bridged is, that just means they share the same adapter that's connected to the network. Okay. Connect it, power on. Okay, and we want, that's all. And that's really it. So we can change that. What else do we have? Do we have a sound card? I'm never going to use the sound card here. The special sound card. No, I don't want a sound card. USB controller. Do I want to be able to plug in USB sticks and have my server see it? Yeah, I want that. Show all USB input devices. USB compatible 2.0, I guess. I guess 2 is fine. The only thing I would do is like file transfers and stuff. Most of the time I would SSH that in. The only other time I would want to use it is to use my USB security key. So I am going to leave that there. Network adapter is bridged. We have it's going to have this, image is going to be mounted as if it was a CD-ROM. We're giving it 2 processors, which is the minimum. And I don't really need, again, the virtual machine does not use up this memory and these processors unless it's on. And I've left it on accident, But when it's on, so if you're playing games or using Linux, you can consider it like a big heavy-duty game that's going to take over your whole machine, right? In which case, you can be okay with bumping up the processors to 4. I have quite a few here, so because this is a gaming rig, so I'm okay with it having 4 processors, or it's going to be all terminal stuff. So I really don't care about the other stuff. But and I mean, even the RAM, I'm tempted to go up to 8 because this is going to be kind of like a terminal workstation. So let's do that. Let's go ahead. Now these are things you can turn up and down. So, but you cannot, and you can change the network adapter back and forth. You cannot, the hard drive is a little bit different. I don't think you can do that. Sound card, we really don't care about. A printer. Virtual printers must be effective print. Yeah. Display. Accelerating 3D graphics. I am never ever going to use 3D graphics on my VMware player. It's going to be a server. If you were doing Kali Linux or you wanted to run Zwift or something, you could leave that on. I don't need it. I don't want it to try to take over the 3D graphics driver at all. So I'm going to turn that off. Specify the monitors. Don't need any of this, because the only time I'm ever actually going to be connecting to it is just to get it the secure shell set up, and then I'm going to remotely log into it with SSH, just like I would any other cloud machine. So that seems good. Power on the virtual machine after creation. Yeah, let's go ahead. So we're gonna click on finish, and this is like a BIOS. This is if you were just gonna run your own computer. VMware can do pass through. Yes. Yeah, it was doing pass through like a long time ago. I don't know if it's that type of pass through, but remove devices. Okay, each device can be connected. Blah blah blah. So this is telling you that you can connect. You can use USB devices if you want it to, but you don't have to. I install after you finish installing. Click on this, and it'll actually update it even more. So this stuff that you're seeing here, this is the stuff from the USB stick that we plugged into our virtual machine. So this is how you install Linux. I've done this before on another video, but this goes pretty quickly, so we'll do it really fast. While this is installing, let's go back and read some of the stuff. Thank you, Derp Sauce. Haha. Here we go. So English. We're gonna log into English here. It's not taking over my mouse. All right, enter. Continue with that updating. Update the new installer. Yeah. I just another reason I like Ubuntu is it's got such a great installer. You wrote the guide about the Optiplex? Oh yeah, that's right. Thank you for sending the Optiplex stuff. That's great. Yeah, the QEMU project is really great. Yep. QEMU is an awesome project. QEMU is an awesome project as well. It is not going to do what I need though. It just isn't. Ubuntu server, we want all the defaults. Third-party drivers, I really don't need them because I'm not doing anything fancy. Okay, there's my internal IP address. It's going to give me a DHCP address, which is fine because I'll just lock it down as reserved in my router. Click on done proxy. I don't need a proxy. This would be if you're inside of, like an enterprise or something. And done. You can download it if you want to. Yeah. If I binary and PXE server, yep. The only problem with that is you still have to touch the servers. I tried to do that with my Mac Minis. It doesn't work. You have to have servers that can PXE boot without being touched. Otherwise, the whole point of having network boot is just defeated because you have to touch every single one of your 30 machines. Use the entire disk? Yeah, yes. Now, this is important. This is all 300 gigabytes of that file that it thinks is a disk drive. It's not your actual disk drive. Lest you be, yeah, I don't need encryption. LVM groups I do need. That will let me change the size later. Then it gives you slash and slash boot. It's very, very plain Jane. This always reminds me of the old days when we had to do all this by hand. And it was so much harder. So it's gotten a lot easier. Select to continue. Will blow away your disk. Yes, continue. What is my name? Really? Rob. What is your server's name? Actually, no. Let's make it, you know what? It should be the return of Anton. It should be the return of Anton. Pick a username. RBX Rob, how about that? Choose a password. Shh, don't tell anybody. Don't tell anybody my password. The thing I'm the most sad about is I can't show you my keystrokes while I'm typing them anymore on Windows. That's a Linux only thing. There's literally nothing on Windows to do that yet. All the other stuff is absolute crap in comparison. Enable Ubuntu Pro. They're trying to sell me stuff. No, I don't want Ubuntu Pro. Do I want SSH? Heck yes. SSH identity? Yes. I mean, let's go get him from GitHub. Yeah. No, never mind. No, I want a new one. I want a new one because I want to have separate security. Allow password authentication over SSH. Yes, for now. Again, this is all inside of my local area network, so relatively safe, safer than I would be out on the network somewhere. These are all the little things you can install along with it if you wanted. I don't need any of them. So click on done. And it's going to go ahead and it's going to pull down some stuff off the internet to be able to do the installation. And I'm going to go back to reading comments for a bit. Why not Debian server? Because Debian. Everybody likes... I love the Debian project. What I don't like about Debian is their intolerance. Yeah, that's the right word. Of proprietary software. By telling me that I can't use proprietary hardware that uses proprietary firmware, the Debian project wants to limit my freedoms to make that decision. And it's ironically, it's one of these things where people that are all about free choice don't even see that they're being Bolsheviks, that they are completely preventing you from the choice. And they're saying, "Oh, are you sure you have the choice?" And my choice is to use a distro that has good relationships with people who have chosen to create proprietary firmware, such as NVIDIA, who have supported the open source community in their way without losing their business and created a symbiotic relationship that many people find abhorrent, including Linus Torvalds, but the rest of the enterprise world has decided is the standard. So I prefer, this is the same reason I hate GPL v3. And the people who don't understand why GPL v3 is the devil are not people that I would want to work with or choose software with. So we're going to reboot. When you're done operating system, I finished install. Okay, it's trying to unmount the CD-ROM. We might have to do that on our own. So I like the Debian project, like what they're doing. I don't like their obsession with not playing nice with. I think Ubuntu as a company, and Red Hat for that matter, as much as I hate some of the other stuff they've done, the one thing they have done well is they have paved a way for relationships with proprietary companies that are never, ever, ever going to release their software as open. And I don't think that they should be forced to do that. And I think trying to force them to do that is just as wrong as saying that you're promoting freedom. I should have the freedom to choose whether I want to use software that comes from the company or not. I don't want to be forced to never use the software from a company, and that's what Debian does. Debian never lets you put proprietary stuff unless you go to extreme lengths to add proprietary software, device drivers, and stuff that you would normally not mess with after the fact. Whereas Ubuntu has created a relationship with these people, and they allow that stuff to be installed so that everything just works when it boots up, if you choose to, and you're opting into it. It's just much easier. This is not my secure key, by the way. That is not what you think it is. That's a host key. It does look kind of scary though, doesn't it? Looks like I doxed myself there. I didn't. That's not it. So anyway, that's my take on that. I know I'm going to get hate mail from the problem. See, I know all the arguments because I used to be the one making those arguments. I was so the other way on all of this, and I have mellowed out in my old age. And I got to tell you, there is a middle ground here. I don't know what's going on here though. It doesn't seem happy. I think it might have crashed. Maybe I didn't give it enough memory, or maybe it still had to boot or something. Let's pause it. Are you sure you want to? Oh no, there it is. Are you sure you want to suspend the virtual machine and exit? No. Yeah, it's still doing stuff. There we go. All right, so we're gonna log in. Actually, I think log in from the console is allowed, but we're not gonna log in as RBXRob. Use my secret password, and there we go. Okay, so this is the first step, and now we have SSH on here, right? And I just need to look at my IP address, which is .32. That was the one that was automatically assigned to it. Okay, and now comes the next step, and I wanted to take a break here, but we're going to go ahead and go. I'm going to go read some comments here. But the next step is we're going to be downloading and installing terminal software onto our Windows machine so we can connect to it. Yeah. I don't know if Ubuntu Pro is good. I haven't ever used it. And if you like to select a VM on the same device as VM, give me the freedom to shoot myself in the foot. Yeah. You guys are funny. Thoughts on OS boxes? Oh, I do not know. NAT acts like a host. No. Acts like, yes, acts like a host. That's true. No, the way, yeah. NAT means that it's like you have two host machines instead of a host and a guest. That's another way to put it, I guess. Somebody said that. Yeah, it's a nice way to. So we don't have a terminal. If we wanted to use Linux from the terminal right now, we would have to open up VMware and go to the console. That's what this is. The console is a terminal, but it's not a remote connection. It's the same thing as if I had a piece of glass here and I was looking at it, right? And the cloud providers, they have servers like this you can actually log into, and you can even put something like VNC on there or whatever. There's a million technologies that you can actually put on there that even over the network, over the internet even, you can see exactly the same terminal screen that you need. But once you have SSH installed, you don't need it as much, right? Because you can remotely connect in using an encrypted connection tunnel, and then you can go there. So we already have SSH here. Here's how we know SSH service SSH status. Did I get that right? There we go. So we have SSHs running over here. OpenBSD secure shell. I didn't realize it was I mean, I think I knew it was OpenBSD project, but I didn't realize it was qualified as that. That's cool. So Ubuntu installed it for us. It tells us where it's listing on port 22. And we're not going to cover networking here, but we need to get to this machine, right? So that the IP number was listed for us at the very top. And I don't know even how you would scroll on this terminal, but it doesn't matter because we saw it. If you needed to know, you just do IPA and you can go look for your IP address. So there it is, 192.168.1.32. And that's what we're going to connect into. So how do we do that, right? Well, you would go to the Windows command line terminal. So to do that, first of all, I have to get my mouse out of here. So I'm going to click on something else. And I type the super key, and I'm going to type, you could type terminal, right? And you might say, hey, I don't have a terminal, right? I actually installed one already, but that's when I realized I wanted to do this. I think, though, that you could just type CMD. I'm kind of curious to see if this will work. Even if you don't have a terminal installed yet, which we are going to do. We're actually going to do it. I think you can actually just go do it here because I think you have which SSH. Whence SSH. This is Windows land. Do I have SSH? I do. So even if you don't install a terminal, which we are going to, right? We can go ahead and test it. We can say SSH. My username right now is Rob, so I'm going to change my to RWXRob at 192.168.1.32. Is it where? I can never remember which. It's a Windows command. Okay, so it says, hey, I've never connected this before. Are you sure it's the real one and not some man in the middle? Yes. And I type my password. Now, we'll talk about why password authentication is usually a bad idea and you want to disable that. But for this kind of thing, it's convenient, it's easy, it's fine, right? But most professional enterprise servers will have authentication through password disabled because it's not secure. And there you go. So we're actually logged in. And I haven't had to do anything else. I have a server here. If I was kind of okay with the defaults here, with the command tool. Now, the problem with the command tool that most people have, like I have, oh my God, is this completely annoying. It's one of the oldest applications in existence, and it's absolutely horrible. And it was replaced by I want to say, 2019, It was actually replaced with a new fancy terminal. You can go watch the videos when it came out. But we would rather use a really cool terminal. Now, here's a point where, because we don't want to use this, right? Now, we do have a choice here, and I am going to do something that I did not do in the other boost. We are going to install two different things. Okay, there's three things that are going to make our life a lot easier. And the first thing is going to be something called the Windows Terminal Preview. And it is a better terminal than the one we just had. That terminal we had doesn't have colors. It doesn't have fancy emotes. It doesn't have, you can't even cut and paste. I mean, it's crazy. You can, but it's really, really hard. And it's been replaced. And so what do we do? So we go to the Windows Store. I push the super key, and I'm going to type Store. I'm going to go into the Microsoft Store, and I'm going to find, we're going to look up Windows Terminal. And the reason we're searching for terminal is because I want to show you there's two of them. And you're like, what's the difference, Mr. Rob, between the two? The one with the higher stars, Windows Terminal Preview, is better and faster and uses some form of emulation or optimization for the rendering so that things like scrolling across the screen really fast work better. Okay. And so I strongly suggest you get Windows Terminal Preview instead. The changes in are every year we'd have to evaluate whether those changes are still worth it or not. I suspect this is where they do their testing. But then you click on Open Install, and it will go through and it will do the installation, and you just accept all the stuff, and it's pretty basic. I'm not going to do it here since I already did it. And then you can go ahead and click on Open. And now you're going to get this kind of terminal. All right, so it's a much prettier terminal, right? A couple things you'll notice is that this is running PowerShell now. So when you use Windows Terminal, they're like, no, you're not going to use DOS, right? Which you can still do, by the way. So you see this, I'm using DOS now. So DOS is that ancient thing that you have when it's cmd.exe. You might still even find installation things that tell you to use that. But these days, everybody on Windows uses PowerShell as their default. And that's fine. PowerShell is a great shell for Windows people. And it's got a lot of things about it. If you're going to get into hacking, you have to learn PowerShell. It's actually really important that you know it. It's required learning, by the way, for the OSCP exam. And it has a bunch of advantages. Now, I am a Unix Linux guy, so I really don't care about PowerShell that much, other than occasionally I want to use it. I find it to be problematic. And I didn't install this Windows Terminal Preview to get PowerShell. I installed it because I want my terminal to be nicer, right? Now, so without any other further changes, I could just do this. I could do sshRvxRob at 192.168.1.32. Did I do that wrong? I'm an idiot. I typed Control C to get out of that, by the way. PASSW. My password, now you know it. Okay, so here we go. Now we're on the same thing. Now we're on Anton, right? We made a remote connection to a virtual machine, and we are now connected into a brand new machine. It's just like before. You can see it has a different IP address. See there? There's the 32, right? Oh, let me show you that again. So if I type exit, it goes back to this, right? Well, let's look up the IP addresses on this guy. I don't know PowerShell. You guys are gonna make fun of me. Is there a config? Is it /a? There's no. It's IP config. Oh. I'm looking at my IP address. All right, there it is. All right, so IPv4. So IP 192.168.46.1. Oh, that's interesting. So we're on an entirely different subnet. Or are we? No, we're not. Okay, so here's something. That is for our pretend virtual. Remember we have a machine inside a machine. So this is the pretend. This is the machine. It's on its own. It's got its own address internally. So, and then, look at that. We got another one. We got another pretend address, right? And then we've got the wireless one. What else do we have? Okay, so this looks like this is a good one. Oh, look, Ethernet adapter. So this is an actual hardware Ethernet adapter, and we see it's .6, and I happen to know that's the real one. Okay, so this is the internal IP address of, and don't, I'm not doxing IP addresses here, by the way. I wouldn't care if I did. But so this is the IP address inside of my house here, my apartment. And I can, if I go to that address, I can access it, right? And in fact, if you this one of the fun things to do at this point, and we might actually do this, is to install uh, Secure Shell onto Windows, and we're gonna do some really cool stuff with that. Let me show you what I mean by that. So these are the IP addresses. IP addresses are like the names of the houses, right? And the doors are like the ports. 22, you have multiple doors into the same thing, and 22 is the port for SSH. That's the door for SSH. So we got everything connected here, and we can go in and out. Now, before we go further with this, we have a couple more customizations to do really quickly. Okay, so we're kind of going late, but that's okay. And the first one we're going to do is we're going to install, I want my own colors, right? I want my own colors and terminal settings and everything. And this is one of those cases where you just kind of have to go get it, right? And so let's do that. Let's click on here and go to settings and appearance. And there's like all these different things you can use by default. The defaults have gotten really good, by the way. You may just want to use the defaults, but you can also load up your own. And so if you click on defaults here, starting directory icon, tab label. I don't remember how to do this, so some of this I got to read about. But let's see, Windows Terminal can be set as the default terminal application in your settings. Okay, let's do that first. Let's make it our default. Defaults. I think we already did that. Run this profile as administrator. If enabled, run this profile as administrator. I think you should pretty much run it as administrator all the time, but I hate not having administrator access. I really do. Yeah. I forget. I don't necessarily need nerd font. So, because I don't do all the crazy stuff people do with it. I'm trying to find a place where you install your. I'm having my thing run as admin because I hate forgetting that I'm not running as admin. So there. Open JSON file. All right, so this is the file that's got all of our settings in it. Why isn't it opening? Why it no work? Okay, here we go. This doesn't know how to open it. It's like, how do you open this? How am I going to edit this file? All right, so this is where things get really kind of interesting. All right. More apps. It's trying to ask me what app to open it with. I'm just going to use Notepad. Actually, let's use WordPad. We don't have VS Code. I was going to install VS Code. That's when that was the secret. Because look at this, is going to blind everybody. So this is the file. This is a stupid JSON file you have to update. Right? Now, you can update this file automatically. GVim. I don't install GVim. There's a reason for that. Because it comes with Bash. All right, so we're getting ahead of ourselves here. I'm trying to decide the best order to do this in for you. Microsoft Store, I think we're done with you. You can install Vim on. You can basically turn your Windows machine into a Linux machine as well. And we're going to talk about that, but I didn't want to get too far into that. I wanted to just get into the customization of this first. So, defaults, there is a way to load the preferences, and I do not remember it. There's a way to take the file. I know, my eyes too. There's a way to take the file and install it, and I don't remember how to do that. Add new profile, duplicate profile, Windows PowerShell, discard changes. I don't know how to do it. Does anybody remember? It's probably here. No? Someplace in here is like import new. Someplace in here is import new settings or something. It's in the bottom left. This, open JSON file. Open. Okay, there we go. Okay, so open your default settings file. Alt click to open your defaults.json file. You just modify the JSON settings. Okay, I guess that works. Yeah. All right. So this ugly thing. Now this is not something that I mean, you can mess with get your own, but more likely you're going to find somebody who has settings that you want already, out there on the internet. So I'm going to go to my dot files on GitHub, and I'm going to go find my Windows stuff. So, can I install Windows terminal settings.json? And I am going to go to the raw. Actually, I think they added that button. I don't remember them having that before. We are pleased to announce that we have added a new feature: record and insert videos directly into GitHub tickets. Nice. Okay, got it. Copy raw file. Okay, so now the raw file is in my buffer, and I can go in here and replace it with WordPad, which I really hope doesn't add line returns. That would suck. All right, so this is going to give me my Groovebox colors, and I can save it and never look at this again. Save. And frankly, because I normally don't edit files using that editor, I use the command line. And I'm going to show you how to do that in a bit. But so this is the one horrible time where your eyes just got burned out. All right. So now what? Let's go back to here. Unable to find the selected Ubuntu Mono font. Consoles as basically said. Consoles is actually a really great font. I really like Consoles as well as Ubuntu Mono. If you wanted to install Ubuntu Mono font, you could, but that's fine. Okay, so that should have been my default, I think. And you see here, oh wait, it said it was for my Git bash. Interesting. Did it change from my defaults? Or did it add a new one? That's interesting. Yeah, you know why? Because I have like multiple things here. See, I have defaults and I have some of the other stuff. Anyway, so I mean, you can go ahead and set the settings by yourself individually, or you can do it that way. So anyway, let's all right, okay. Does that mean I can't use it at all? That's bad. All right, let's make a new one. Let's do plus. This morning can't do a bunch of mono. Consoles, okay. All right, so it use consoles instead. You know what? I'm gonna install Ubuntu Mono. I am, because I don't want to hit that all the time. Ubuntu Mono. Ubuntu Mono download family. Zip. How do I? Am I just gonna click on it? Go to town. Where are you? All right, here we go. Ubuntu Mono. Open. Oh my God. Install. Look, I am not going to be doing this very much longer. Install my poor eyes. Your poor eyes. Install. That'll just quiet all those errors. I do like Ubuntu Mono. So, all right. What are we doing? Are we going to finish the time? Okay, so close this out. Let's do another one. Let's do a new Git bash. Hey, look. Now it tried to run as the shell Git bash. Well, you can probably guess that we don't have Git bash yet, right? So I kind of did this out of order, but this is another one of the 3 things that I think everybody should get. So get scm.org. If you want Git to run on Windows, you have to install Git bash. I mean, it does. PowerShell has it nowadays, but this is still the best way to do it. Download for Windows. This is cool. If you already have it, you can use Winget. You can just do that. Wow, that's cool. I like it. I'm gonna try that. It's like, this is new. I didn't do this before. Yeah. All right, so let's go back to our PowerShell. Look at how big everything is. You know why? That's because I used to be doing this for like on the big screen. You know, there we go. Termination behavior can be la la la. Don't show again. All right, here we go. This is see how awesome it is. You can read it now, right? Uh, why do I use Windows if I don't know how to use it? You're so funny and stupid. Okay, so here we go. Why do you troll people? Because you don't have a job or a life, and that's the only thing you have to do on a Saturday because you're a worthless human being. Just go kill yourself. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. That just came out. All right. So here we go. Yeah, I'm spending my day helping people learn things. What are you doing? All right. So here we go. We're gonna go ahead and we had our terminal login here. This is why I do it live like this, so everybody can make the mistakes and see them. So we got Winget here. What I want to know is if Winget is already installed. Wouldn't that be cool? It is installed now by default. See, I learned something. I did not know that. Yeah, sorry. Yeah. Video remove the video, yeah. I don't have YouTube video powers, but yeah. Yeah. And they just want attention. I don't want to give them attention. That's why I don't stream put comments on the screen anymore. And not from those kind of idiots. Installer will request to run as administrator, and I said yes. Oh, it's installing. All right, so why do you want Git Bash on there, right? And the answer is because it comes with a bunch of stuff besides just Git and besides just Bash and beside one of those things is SSH, which you saw was already on the machine. But another thing that it includes is good old Vim. So now we can do, you know, another thing too is you can type Bash now, and you should be able to get Bash. The term Bash is not recognized. I wonder if it's bash.exe in PowerShell. It might not know about it yet. Let's go exit that one. Okay. Let's go back to, I gotta go out of full screen mode here. All right, so let's make a new shell. Also, I want to change this to be the default. So when I get a new shell, yep, there it is. So now it says it's MinGW, which is a version of Unix that runs as Windows. It's pretty complex to describe, but that's what it is. And then you can see that I'm running desktop. There's my machine name, which I could probably want to change eventually. And I have Bash. Now, I really don't care about running Bash on the machine. It's nice that I can have it. And I do talk in other videos about why having Bash, why you might want to have Bash on your Windows machine as opposed to PowerShell. And if you know Bash, you can do a lot of amazing things, including find and stuff like that, right? So, but in our case, mostly we wanted to get our colors to be the same, and then we want to be able to SSH into RBXRob and I can make this all faster and everything. And we're almost close to done with this. 192.168.1.32. And my super secret password. And there I am. There I am on Anton on a brand spanking new machine. I can run Tmux over here. But you see my Tmux hasn't been configured yet, right? And I think we probably need to end the video before I start doing all of that customization. I am going to go through, and I have to do it anyway, though, so I might end up doing it just with you to show you how I do it. And then you can decide if the customization is what you want. We have full videos on Tmux and Vim and all of that. Is Vim over here? Yeah. Let's see what version it is. Is it full Vim? Vim improved. So yeah, Vim was installed onto our server for us. I am. You can SSH from there if you want. It doesn't matter now. It doesn't matter. So I mean, that's a fair comment. So the comment is, why aren't you just SSHing from PowerShell? We did that already. You probably missed that. So that's number one. We already did that and showed that. And number two is because we wanted to do the customization of the system. And some of those customizations were Bash specific, specifically my use of Groovebox for the colors. So it's worth installing Git Bash at the same time that you install all these other things. And one of the things that comes with Git Bash, as I said, is Vim. Somebody was saying, because like if I wanted to open the JSON file, right? I can now, I don't have to do this way. I could actually go in and find that file. Is it Alt? Which one is the one that opens it where the file is? Um, I forget. There's another way. I say Alt click to open your defaults.json file. You can use Vim and find. That's the main reason, right? So, and then if you know where your JSON file is, which I don't, and you can change your default editor now to be Vim because it's been installed onto the machine. So, if you want, you can. I think you could. You know what? Let's try that. Default apps. So I just search for default apps. I want to see if I can change my the Vim, and sometimes I'll use GVim on here in addition to that, but I don't see it. Web browser, choose the default by file type. Okay, default apps. I wonder if we can just choose the command line Vim. I wonder if it'll do it. I think it will. I think it'll run the terminal because the terminal is now our default. So Microsoft Windows Terminal is now the default terminal. So if we can get it to open our app in that, that'd be great, right? So let's look for. I don't know how you want to go about doing this. Most of the time, I'm just gonna go find it. You can port over your regular VMRC to Windows. Yeah, if you want. If you want to do all that, I normally don't. Normally, I will put my VMRC. I'll move the files over if I'm going to do it, or I'll mount the files, which is what I was going to show you. There's some pretty cool stuff you can do there. I don't know if we have enough time for all of that today, though. It is one of the coolest things you can do, though, is set up SSH server on Windows, so that when you're logged in, you can log in as admin onto your Windows PC. You don't need to do that if you set up your default terminals to have admin access. So it's just easy. It's not necessary. So I'm probably not going to do it. But if you're transferring files both ways, so like if you do a lot of terminal work in your terminal and you want to push it onto Windows instead of pulling it from Windows, most of the time I'm just doing GitHub repos, so it's not a thing. But you can. It's kind of cool though. You can put SSH daemon on your Windows machine and run it that way. I'm not in the mood to go find all of my text files over here. But so one of the cool things is that I can just do this. I can just type super key, enter terminal, and I got a terminal right away. Okay. So now, let me try that again for you. All right. So I'm pushing the super key, and I can't show it to you right now, but it is, it's popping up all your little stuff, and then I'm typing terminal. And it says terminal preview, and I hit enter, and then it runs it right on the main screen. However, I do want it to run in a different default window. I want it to run. I'm having a problem right now because my main window is off screen for obvious streamer reasons. So I'm going to make it so my terminal starts up on this screen by default. Normally I don't need to do that, but I wonder if it can be done. I wonder if you can make it so that let's start up default profile, get bash, terminal application, let Windows decide. Let's see, launch on machine startup on when terminal starts, open a tab in the default profile. Yep, okay, new instance behavior, create a new window. Okay, launch size. I guess we could do full screen there. Launch parameters. Full screen left, Windows decide. Launch position. Center on launch, full screen. I want it to be a full screen, but I want it to be over here. I mean, you know what? I probably don't care about that, actually. Because that way it'll open up off screen, and then I can bring it over if I want to. That's kind of my streaming thing that I've got going on. And then F11 for full screen and stuff, right? You can actually install tmux over here. Let me see if I can. Let's edit some data files. This is an empty dot file. One of the things I do like about this versus WSL2 is, as you can see, I am in my actual home directory. When you use WSL2, it doesn't do that. It puts you in a different place with different permissions, and it confuses the two. So you have kind of a home directory and then a non-home directory. You have like a WSL2 home directory, and then you have a home directory for the actual machine. And if you think that you can do something simple like share your SSH keys between the two, you can't. So, that can get you into big trouble, and that's one of the main disadvantages of WSL2. But if we use the git bash, it doesn't matter. You're still in the same home directory, which is in cusers rob, which you can immediately translate into the same thing in Windows. And you can run your Windows scripts. You can run bash scripts over here. You can run login scripts and all kinds of things like that. So that is it. I now have Linux on here, and I am now ready to do all the rest of the stuff that I need to do, which means setting it up and putting my stuff over there. And I think I will save that for a different video. And I will do that with everybody. So those who want to kind of go through that. But when I do it, I'm not going to do it in the sense of, so everything that I've done today in this video has been good enough to replace the same steps in the beginner boost that happened earlier in the year. It's essentially the same thing, right? But one of the things, but everything after this that I make is not going to be beginner boost content. It's going to be assuming that you have finished the beginner boost and you already have all your Vim config and Tmux config and bash RC and all that stuff, and you've got it all set up and you just want to use it. Okay, so this is actually a good place to stop the video. So I'm going to go ahead and one more time, I'm just going to log in, artifxrob at, and SSH is secure shell. That's the remote thing. 192.168. One thing to keep in mind here is that you definitely will want to lock down that IP address because it won't necessarily always get the same one when it starts up. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. It just depends on your home network setup. And you'll have to research how to go into your home router setup and change it to add a reserved IP address. Everybody's router is different. That's not something that I can share on a stream, but if you want that IP, another thing to do is to just fire up the VM and look at it again and then memorize that IP. But if you don't want it to change, you're going to have to do the work to figure out how to log into your router and set up a reserved IP address. Or you're going to have to do quite a bit more work to understand what it means to make a static IP network environment and use it that way. I suggest against that, especially if you're a beginner, to go in there and make a reserved IP, which is dynamic, which means technically it can change, but your router, your Wi-Fi network, modem router thingy is gonna give it the same number every time, and then that way you can connect to it from your phone, even if you wanted to, your phone or your laptop or any of those places. All right, so yeah, let's go ahead and if you want to be able to log in, so you're logged into all these things, and that is it. That's it. So I'm going to go through and read the comments that aren't from the idiots on YouTube. Okay, so this happens every time, by the way, we add YouTube streaming. All the idiots come from YouTube. I'm not even kidding. I would have thought it would have been another thing. Control L to clear the screen is a horrible idea. Don't use that. That's a horrible idea. Don't use Control L to clear the screen. And we go through that in the boost. It's a horrible idea. People have recommended don't know about Vim mode. Go back and watch the boost about that. But if somebody saw that recommendation, I want them to know that I strongly discourage you from doing that. Type C to clear the screen, or clear until you get, because in Vim mode, once you have Vim mode on, forget about Control L, because that's an Emacs thing. WinGet is interesting. It's also included, so that was kind of fun. MSys2, yeah, those are all fun things. Those are the ways of running Linux. Chocolatey is also cool for installing stuff. I had that. That's what I had last time. Why am I SSHing from the PowerShell? Just because I had Git Bash up and I made Git Bash my default when terminal opens now. Let's see here. Installs Vim. Yeah, it installs a bunch of good stuff, including find. The find command. The find command, I go through this in the boost, but the find Vim git SSH, those are all great things to get that Git Bash installs. And Bash is absolute power, because you can actually write Bash scripting on your Windows machine as well as having a full-blown Linux machine available to you through the remote connection. The super key is the Windows key. It's not always called that. I'm using a Mac keyboard right now, if you didn't notice. I tried using Tabby instead of Windows Terminal. Yeah, I mean, there's other terminal stuff out there. I'm just telling you the best ones that I like. Nah, okay. Yes, we are gonna go out on the town tonight. It's gonna be fun. Um, one thing about Sigwin is fork. Yeah, I agree. Um, okay, so can you give a rundown of Git Bash limitations versus WSL? I have done several videos on that. I suggest if you look, you know how you can search through a specific YouTube user's videos? Go search through WSL2 in my YouTube. I've done at least 5 videos on that. I don't want to go down the details of all that again. Suffice it to say, WSL2 works for most people, and they say, "Oh, I don't ever have a problem with it." It's because they don't ever push it. They don't actually use it a lot. And the people who do inevitably agree with me. It's horrible, and it breaks up and blows up all the time. Acquisition of Activision Blizzard, Microsoft did. Oh my god, that was a massive thing for gaming. It really was. I mean, Windows is gaming platform. The end. Uh, so it's more real. It's a more real Linux machine. Yeah. Yeah, it is. I mean, you can get WSL2 to work, but I wouldn't. I would not do it. So, but thoughts on the VM images on OS boxes? I don't know about those images. I don't know what OS boxes is. I don't use those images. I only use official images. Which means the installing by hand. A lot of people think I should use cloud init images. Again, I don't mind going through the installation steps for Ubuntu. It's not that much. Now you can go ahead and watch it. Yeah, I'm on Windows 10. Windows 11 won't work on my hardware, even though I bought it 2 years ago. I don't know why. Problems with it a while ago. I don't know if it's still true. What? Any apply RAM at one point? WSL2? Yeah. WSL2 will run off the map. It'll start doing really janky, weird things. It has some sort of memory leak in it, and it will take over your control, and it will start randomly spitting crap out, and all your keystrokes will get slow. There's more than one case of I have VODs that have that happening to me while I was using it, and everybody was like, "Oh my god, what is happening?" And then we started the beginner boost. It was either this year or last year, and I had people using WSL2, and it blew up. It literally blew up. I couldn't use containers anymore because it blew up. So I'm just telling you, don't use it. It's really bad. If you use it, that's fine. You'll have a different experience than me. I'm telling you not to. Um, yeah. I started using Zellage instead of TMUX for multiplexer. I would never do that. If somebody wants to do that, that's cool. If you want to experiment, that's fine. But I recommend using the standard tools first and learning those, and then learning the other stuff. Because those are the things that are going to use on the job. But if you want to do that, that's fine. Same here with Win 11. My 2-year-old 32 core Epic doesn't even have a TP. So you can't put Win 11 on it. I know. How are you doing? I am pretty good, Hikari. Good to see you. Tuned in for YouTube. When you called YouTube viewers idiots, and I was like, fine, I'll go back to Twitch. Well, you're not one of the idiots, obviously. It's this other troll. It's not even Rage Giant. Rage Giant looks like a very nice human being too. It's this voice of the true who's got the stupidest name in history. I know I'm giving the troll. I'm feeding the trolls. Bad idea. WSL2 works perfectly on my machine, but some friends would have said, never say that to somebody, by the way. Never say that's a beginner mistake. And I know you're not a beginner, but never, as a beginner, never go up to a veteran and say, works on my machine. I don't know what's wrong with you. You must be stupid, because that's what you're saying. Don't ever say to somebody, well, I don't know about you. It works on my machine. I'm telling you, if you want to like lose your head, if you want to be decapitated in that moment, figuratively, don't ever tell somebody it works on my machine. Oh my god, that is one of the worst tech insults you can ever do to somebody. Unless you want to do that. maybe you want to piss them off. Maybe you really want to get them angry at you. Oh man, it works for me. Works for me. Seriously, it's like fighting words right there. I never run TMUX on personal systems yet. Yeah, I figured. Yeah, you know TMUX already, so yeah. Ads are ridiculous. They are. I can 6 in a row. Yeah, you can use. There's lots of other places to go watch it. Please look. Please do not think that you have to watch these videos on Twitch. Okay. I am, doing the multi-streaming thing on purpose because of that, and making things available all over the place. Hell, you can even watch it on Facebook. I don't know if we haven't had any Facebook people dare to say hi, but they may actually be watching. Wouldn't that be funny if we actually had comments from Facebook on a tech stream? that would be a first. If you're on Facebook and you dare to say hi, I would really love to see that before we close out. I have never once had a Facebook person tune into a tech stream, not once. I mean, for obvious reasons. I mean, these are different people. They're not necessarily techies. Some of them are, but they might not want to admit it on Facebook. They come over to YouTube or something, or to Kick or wherever, right? So, yeah, yeah, yeah. And we're on Kick. I'm like 3 people away from Kick affiliate. So I don't even. I know I got rid of my Facebook, and then I added it back for my family and stuff, and for the Critical Mass ride in Charlotte, and for the art community. Which, by the way, uh, you haven't been to Kick yet, yeah. So anyway, I mean, a lot of you that are here didn't know that I moved on to the multi-streaming thing. So I'm going to go ahead and stop the stream right now. And when I do that, I have to do it for everybody. So I will be back, and I don't know when, but it will be roughly, it will be sometime. Let me see here. I'm going to be doing some streaming tonight. I'm going to try to get to Charlotte. I probably will stream the car ride. I haven't decided yet. We will take the bike, but I don't know if we're going to be riding on the bike around. I have some surprises in first. I'm going to get to hold my own severed head tonight. Yeah. So, Matt, hey, hi. And you just had to. You're the first ever, actually. So, so if you want to have fun with me, screwing around in Charlotte and going to the art thing and seeing my wife's new studio and my wife's new office and all of that good stuff, and doing random things. Hopefully not knocking my teeth out tonight. It was always on a Friday. It was Frontlawn Friday at the McCall Center Art Center. If you've already tuned out, you're totally fine. But if it's important that I tell everybody that most of my streaming, 90% of my streaming is now non-technical. It's what I call culture journalism and fitness and sunsets and talking to people, interviews and stuff like that. So most of my online presence is streaming in YouTube and Twitch and Facebook and everything is not technical. So I will have these upskill days on Friday afternoon and the Saturday and Sunday the Saturday stuff, I'll try to maintain that. But I just have to put that out there because we do have some of the tech people here. And obviously my subs have taken a hit pretty heavily because of it. People wanted to be here because they like the tech content. And I mean, it's impossible for me to do 4 hours of outdoor IRL content and also do 4 hours of tech content. There's just not that many hours in the day. Occasionally, however, I will be doing tech streams during the middle of the day. If you ever see me come online during the middle of the day, 90% of those times it's going to be because I'm doing something technical. I'm either ranting about something I discovered or I'm going through and trying to solve a problem. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and delete this one right now. We're going to have to skip another Outlive. Outlive always takes a hit. It's a reading club. I am going to be streaming probably on Sunday about fixing SSH multiple shell and inbound connections. This is something that's a critical problem that I need to take care of. And so I'm going to be doing a lot of research collaboratively with everybody with regard to that. I was going to do that today, but I couldn't because I didn't have my terminal installed or anything. And so I went ahead and streamed that for now. But if you want to come back on Sunday or whenever I pop up, the next major technical stream besides tomorrow's regular Linux and Go boost stuff will be me struggling to break Secure Shell by having too many. I'm going to do a denial of service attack against myself with an SSH server so that I can reproduce an error that we are seeing in order to avoid that. Thank you for the subs and all of the other things, Matt. Thank you so much for that. And we'll see ya. We're gonna get ready to party. So when you see me come back online tonight, it'll be to have some fun. The Go implementation of SSH, yes. My Go implementation of SSH is too efficient. It blew up our SSH daemon because it has too many sessions. So somebody sent 100 sessions to it at the same time, and it started producing an error. And if you want to hear about what that error is and where it came from and all of that stuff, yeah. Well, I don't know about HTTP if we're going to end up HTTP proxying them or not, or if we're just going to get rid of them, or if we can just turn up max sessions. But we're going to be doing some rather advanced technical evaluation. And so that content still exists here. It's just not scheduled, right? It's just going to be, I need to have a technical session, and it's going to be during the middle of the workday. And if you see me, come on into the water cooler, and we'll work stuff out together. Another reason that I don't do a lot of co-working streams and do stuff is because of work considerations. After discussing it with a peer and thinking through it, I no longer am okay with streaming everything I'm doing at work, even if there's lots of reasons. AI lip reading, co-working streams. Even some of my code debugging and stuff like that. I don't do that. I don't default to doing that on the stream. But if I have like one problem that we need to solve and it's not intellectual property for my company, then that, like this SSH problem, that's something where I feel comfortable doing that. So anybody, a lot of people have already checked out from this stream right now, but I'm tacking that on to the end of it because I see that a number of you are here tonight. And I, the DJ thing it just wasn't working. I really love the DJ thing, but I don't get as much done when I'm doing the DJ thing. When I just focus on doing coding and work, and then I focus on going outside and having fun. If I want to do the DJ thing, I'm gonna go party, right? And we're all gonna go dance in 80s dance club together or something like that. It's gonna be. So there's a lot less of that happening. SSHD exhausting entropy from dev random before. Absolutely, yeah. That got fixed in the kernel, yeah. Anyway, so to my tech friends, if I don't see you again later tonight, maybe I'll see you on Sunday. Or you can come on in and help us get through Bash. We're still learning Bash on Linux on Saturday. And we're going to continue our Go programming on Saturday as well. Love to have my tech family in here. And I mean that. And it's funny. I used to be hard on people who use the word fam, and I'm not anymore. I'm not hard on them anymore. I kind of miss my tech family, actually. I've gone on to do all this other outdoor stuff, and I met a lot of really amazing, awesome people who are not primarily here for technology, and that's great. But I actually really started to miss my tech sort of community family. And so if you're hearing this, I still appreciate all your contributions and your participation, and I sincerely mean it. I'm like actually like a little bit of an ache. I miss my tech friends. Anyway, so we'll talk to you later. I gotta go before I get all mushy